It's Friday, the 17th of June 2022. Today's top news headlines all over the world. Taliban Republic agreement would have been a success, says Lyons. Afghanistan facing deep economic, humanitarian crisis, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has said. 8 people held over alleged timber, drugs trafficking in eastern Laghman and northern Balkh provin. Ex-assistant NSA, former religious scholar return home Afghanistan. Higher education delegation left Kabul for Turkey. Baltics won't get NATO divisions, Reuters says. Warplane crashes in Russian region bordering Ukraine. What is the EU's alternative to Russian gas? Remembering the Falklands conflict. How Argentina's little victorious war instead became a huge success for Margaret Thatcher. Ukraine claims missile strike on Russian naval tugboat. Thailand gets Bollywood fever as sex worker biopic strikes court. India protests against new short-term army jobs enter third day. Syria's Assad hoping for Iran nuclear deal success. Al Jazeera obtains image of bullet that killed its journalist. Warriors beat Celtics to win 4th NBA title in 8 years. App interview. Biden says a recession is not inevitable. President Joe Biden speaks during an interview with the Associated Press in the Oval Office of the White House, Thursday, June 16, 2022, in Washington. App photo, Evan Bucci, Washington. App President Joe Biden said Thursday the American people are really down, after a tumultuous 2 years with the coronavirus pandemic, volatility in the economy and now surging gasoline prices that are slamming family budgets. But he stressed that a recession was not inevitable, and held out hope of giving the country a greater sense of confidence. Speaking to the Associated Press in a 30-minute Oval Office interview, the president emphasized the battered economy that he inherited and the lingering psychological scars caused by a pandemic that disrupted people's sense of identity. He bristled at claims by Republican lawmakers that last year's COVID-19 aid plan was fully to blame for inflation reaching a 40-year high, calling that argument bizarre. As for the overall American mindset, Biden said, people are really down. Their need for mental health in America has skyrocketed because people have seen everything upset, Biden said. Everything they've counted on upset. But most of it's the consequence of what happened as a consequence of the COVID crisis. January 6 takeaways. Heated, Trump, Pence's near miss with mob. China launches high-tech aircraft carrier in naval milestone. Palestinians say 3 killed during Israeli raid in West Bank. Alabama church shooting kills 2, wounds 1, suspect held. Yellowstone Park gateway towns fret about tourism future. Amid Ukraine's war, a farmer takes comfort in her snails. China announces launch of first indigenous aircraft carrier. FIFA announces 16 host cities for 2026 Football World Cup. US condemns India's BJP officials' remarks on Prophet Muhammad. US judge declares black teen innocent 91 years after his execution. Relatives of Abu Akleh reject Israeli probe into funeral violence. Eyes will be the mouse of the future, says Intel scientist. Senior Intel research scientist Dr. Ilk Demir shares her thoughts about the future of metaverse, artificial intelligence development and media, in an interview with TRT World. Dr. Ilk Demir is a senior staff research scientist at Intel Corporation, where she works on responsible artificial intelligence and metaverse, and is tasked with developing new solutions for old challenges in computer vision, deep learning and 3D vision. We spoke to Dr. Demir on the sidelines of TRT Metaverse and Broadcasting Forum, held in Istanbul on June 10. TRT World, what's the current major focus for you and your team at Intel? Ilk Demir, AI responsibility is a priority for us, especially in the field of media. In our work, we ask how we can increase trust in the media as deepfakes become a larger problem, and more importantly how we can detect them. Recent years have seen significant changes to the AI industry in terms of growth and method. Could you give us an idea of what major changes the domain is seeing with next-gen AI infrastructure? ID. I would say that multimodal approaches are facing harder challenges at solving problems in complex spaces. We're seeing solid progress with regenerative models, and in 3D shape understanding methods. Natural language processing (NLP) is also undergoing significant growth. One of the more exciting developments in the field is the use of multimodal neural networks that combine vision and natural language processing, for instance, or 2D and 3D with better outputs, insights and information distribution. It's the next level. Is the metaverse already here? ID? In 1994, my former postdoctoral supervisor wrote a paper about the office of the future, describing augmented, virtual and mixed reality in the workplace. As you know, Microsoft has Teams for the metaverse. Facebook had Spaces. If we already knew it was coming 20 years ago, why didn't it happen? Primarily because we lack the bandwidth, hardware and form factor. VR hardware has come a long way thanks to 5G and Wi-Fi, and features better rendering and resolution. Motion tracking is also on the rise. Between hardware, AI and implementations of the metaverse, we can actually use the metaverse now. Do you expect any changes as younger generations grow up connected to the internet and metaverse? ID? I think the most important change will be in how we interact with technology. With the keyboard, input was letter by letter. The mouse helped, of course. These devices are going away, however, redefining what our hands and eyes can do instead. I expect more tracking, where eye movement could scroll a page for instance. The new generation growing up in this immersive opinion will be much more precise with their movements as they compensate so that machines can understand them, while machines will also compensate in order to create a space for self-expression. I think we'll be evolving in that direction. Could you share 3 forecasts or concerns on AI and media, going forward into the future? ID? First, deepfakes are coming, and they are coming strong. The more they spread online, the more difficult it is to believe anything online, leading to an erosion of trust not only in media, but socially as well. If you reshare a deepfake from someone you trust, and find out later that it's fake, it could have a social impact. Even in cases of media companies, we are rapidly approaching the point where efforts are needed for fact-checking, and vetting third-party material for deepfakes. Down the road, media companies could choose not to use third-party content, and instead rely on their own in-house content for security. The arms race between deepfake generation and detection will only be more important in the near future. If you're a very busy person and your schedule is very much tight and you want to hear every day all the top happening stories of the world with most authentic sources in few minutes, you could please go to my channel. Thank you, love you.